Okay, hi everybody. Welcome back. I want to talk a little bit about what we call citizenship and dealing with the 14th Amendment and the presumption here. Um, this whole citizenship uh, issue started really because of the slavery issue. And before the 14th Amendment in 1868, the black people, who at that time were referred to as colored people, which meant under color of law. So they were colored, so they were under the color of law, so they were not citizens, they didn't have rights, so they came under the federal rules made by Congress, where the white people and the free people were not subject to congressional citizenship. And this became an issue when a black person was set free from his master. What was his citizenship? Was he free? No, he wasn't considered to be a free man. But he was yet a piece of property, but he has a piece of property that didn't have an owner. So Congress came in and said, okay, well, we'll write the citizenship rules for people that aren't free, that come under the rules of Congress. Well, black people were under the rules of Congress from the beginning when they got here. But then between that was their owners. So the owners took over the citizenship of their slaves. Now, when the black people were set free, they didn't have any owners, so Congress had to create a class. And that's what the 14th Amendment did. They created a class of citizenship, and they said that those persons that were born or naturalized in the United States. See, and that could be the black guy, could have been born here, or could have been naturalized now because he said free. So he's in this thing. And then you have a white person who is born in the United States. And so now we're talking about everybody in the United States with different statuses, born or naturalized in the United States, and subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Now, they didn't say that those people are subject. They said those people who are subject to the United States, and then goes on to say that they're citizens of the United States and of the state in which they reside. So the citizen of the United States never existed until this 14th Amendment created a class of citizenship called the citizen of the United States, and that anybody could join that. Even the free person who was a citizen of a state only could go under the jurisdiction of the United States just by applying and asking for that citizenship. So what we really have here is the creation of a citizenship box that is not so that a black or a colored person could move up into the free state citizenship. It was so that all the free state citizenship people could move down into the citizenship of Congress, to where the original black or colored people were. Okay? Now, with the word colored, when we talk about under color of law, I want you to think corporation. See, because the black people were really considered like a corporation because they were controlled by Congress if they were just out there. So a corporation now has rules of Congress, even if they're owned by a free person or not. But most free people are not free anymore because they signed up to be under Congress, like the other people that were created to be in the citizenship of Congress. So that's what Congress does. They write the rules for the citizens of that are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, which is your corporate or colored person. Okay, so that's all. They just made a way that all the white people could step down and be equal with the black people, or corporations, instead of the corporations and black people being able to move up to the status of a free man, because that cannot be. corporation can never be a free man. Okay, but a black person could because he has flesh and blood. So and the black person, when he's set free, he's free. So the point is in all this stuff, where are we as an individual? Are we free under the Constitution, or are we subject to the jurisdiction of the United States under the 14th Amendment? That's the question. And the answer is up to you. Because all the corporations and all of Congress and all the agents are going to make a presumption of law that you are a citizen subject to their 14th Amendment. That's the presumption of the 14th Amendment. But it's just a presumption. So when I start as a free individual under the Constitution, Article 3, jurisdiction. Okay? If I were to presume or assume that I was started out under as a 14th Amendment citizen with subject to the Congress, if I make that presumption, then I'm going to go and fill out some form or make some declaration of freedom to try to get out from under that presumption. But my declaration isn't going to have any standing because it's based on a presumption of law. See, so this is why we can't buy into that presumption. If you buy into the presumption that the 14th Amendment made you subject, that's not true. And I would like to have anyone tell me that it is true, because that person that's going to say that is going to be an agent. How else could they tell me? Oh, you're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Oh, really? What makes me subject to it? Well, the 14th Amendment. Well, then show me how that 14th Amendment applies to me. It only applies to me if I make the presumption. And boy, if I made that presumption and went out and tried to declare that I was free and that I was not subject to, and made a declaration other than the Declaration of Independence, I'd be going right back into the corporate standing under Congress. How about that for a nice trick? So all these people out here who presume that the 14th Amendment took away their freedom are doing it to themselves. And how could you make a declaration of freedom if you're already subject to the 14th Amendment? Who are you? Wouldn't you have to get that ratified by Congress? See how they flipped it? You flipped it on yourself if you're making the presumption. You're going with the presumption. We can't do that as free people. This is where the issue begins. Is it a presumption or not? I'm not going to say it's a presumption, and I want to know who's going to tell me that I'm presumed to be under the 14th Amendment, which isn't a part of the Constitution as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so this is what we have to look at, is the initial presumption. You're either going to presume you're free and independent at the beginning, or you're not free and independent at the beginning, and you're subject to some code, regulation, rule, statute, ordinance, or constitutional amendment. Okay, so that's where I think the fundamental foundation of our inner game and confidence is going to be determined. When we decide whether we're free under the Constitution, Article 3, or we're subject under the 14th. And that we have to do something to get our freedom, and that we have to write a paper or some declaration. No, it isn't going to be that way, and I'll deal with the agent that wants to take an issue with that. So I'm going to presume I'm free, they'll presume I'm not, and when we come to meet the presumption, then they can declare I'm free. Because they're not going to declare that I'm not. When we come to an issue, and they're on the stand, and they have to bring forward their presumption and prove it with some evidence. Okay? Thanks again. See you next time.